Welcome, everybody. It is pick number 2 in our GCM mock draft for the 2023 NBA draft. Joining me once again, Rod Boone for Charlotte today. I am so excited because, as I was saying to you just before I pressed record, there was kind of this consensus number 1, and then 2, 3, 4, 5, even if you count the twins, is flip-flopped on every mock draft that I have been reading, that I have been researching. So now it gets exciting. The number 1 pick was okay, let's get that out of the way. Now it is time. So before I actually put you on the clock, Rod, tell me first what you think is the priority for Charlotte with this number 2 pick.
Well, I think it could be 2 things, either get the best player available, which is what they should do, or you also could obviously, pick for fit of your roster. Which if you have a guy who you have to slide into like a wing spot, you pick him and you put him right into that spot. But from my perspective, I think you get the best player available at that spot because he seemed like he'd be number 1 pick if it was not for the unicorn there. So that's the case, you might have to go out there and get him. So, prioritizing your wing spot probably is what they may do, but I'm not sure it's the right move from my perspective.
Yeah. So let me set the board real quick. So Charlotte, number 2 pick in this draft, they also have the 27th. So they have 2 first-round picks. They had 27 wins on the season. You would think one of the priorities would be someone to pair with Ball, like a high-level athlete who can speed up the pace, score in transition, score some threes. So there's kind of 2 guys in the mix right now, and that's Brandon Miller and that's Scoot Henderson. One played in the G League, one played at Alabama. One is a forward type guy, one is more of a guard. So I'm going to put you on the clock now because this is the real mystery on who you are picking for the Charlotte Hornets.
This is definitely a tough one, like I said, because every, as you said, mock draft that you kind of see out there, they're kind of flip-flopping, but most of them have them picking Brandon Miller from Alabama. Because again, when you look at the roster and just terms of how it kind of looks right now, again, this is right now, it could change in a month or 2 when the stuff begins in the summer, but they have a wing opening in terms of future, future talent, basically. Right now you have, Gordon Hayward there. This last year was contract. You got to think about the future and how you put somebody around Lamelo Ball to make that part of your team better. So from that perspective, the guy will be Brandon Miller. But if you're asking me who I think they should take and who they might eventually take is Scoot Henderson. Only because, again, if he is the quote-unquote number 1 pick in most other drafts, other than this year because of Victor Wembanyama, to me, you have to go out there and get that guy and see if he can kind of fit on your roster. You kind of pair him with Lamelo Ball. You do the 2-point guard thing. Teams out there actually have 2-point guards. Cleveland is one, comes to mind. So it can be done, but it just depends on just your philosophy and your scheme putting around Lamelo Ball. But if you're asking me who I think they should take, it should be Scoot Henderson at number 2 for sure.
All right. So Scoot played for the G League Ignite this past season. He's a 6'3". Now, I feel so I say he's 6'3", 195, but that does not do his body type justice. Right. And I don't know how to say this without sounding kind of strange, but he's built like a Mack truck. I would say athleticism wise, generational athlete, can score at all 3 levels. He's a great slasher. I think his comparisons right now are Russell Westbrook and Derrick Rose type guys. Does his height scare you at all?
I wouldn't say it scares me because if you think about it, Terry Rozier is actually shorter than he is. So the Hornets played 2 guards with Terry Rozier, Lamelo Ball in the backcourt. So if you put him out there with Lamelo Ball, actually get a little bit more height out there from my perspective.
And width.
Right. His body mass, to me, his just type, he's a pro body now. Yes. He also will get better, stronger, and bigger. But you compare him from what I saw in Chicago, just my first time seeing those guys close up, seeing Scoot and Brandon Miller side by side, Miller has to add a lot of weight to his frame. Man, he's really a skinny type dude. Again, that will happen over years, but right now, I feel like Scoot's a little bit ahead of him in terms of body mass and body weight. So I agree with you. Scoot, to me, is a better NBA player body-wise ready right now.
Yeah. And hey, I am someone you do not have to convince about how important this number 2 draft is. It can change franchises. Like the Grizzlies saw that with John Morant. And so if you're looking at a young team, obviously Lamelo Ball is young. A lot of the guys surrounding him are young. Scoot is a win now type of guy. Yes, Brandon can score. Yes, he's a great shooter, probably the best shooter in the draft this year. Scoot can play defense too, because he's a bigger guy. And again, scoring at all 3 levels will be important with Lamelo. What excites you the very most? Like the Charlotte Hornets get Scoot first game. Like what's the most exciting part about having those 2 pair up?
Well, it's funny because you mentioned John Morant. Actually, I've heard comparisons from Scoot to Ja. They call him John Morant too. Some people call him John Morant too. So if you can have that kind of talent on your team, you pick him and you figure it out from there. So I think that, again, conventional wisdom says you go out there and get the wing player because he fits what you're doing. But outside the box here, think about it, if you have 2 point guards on your team, like Lamelo Ball, Scoot Henderson, you can have Lamelo play off the ball for a good part of the game. Then quarter time, put the ball in his hands, say, Melo, go out there and win us this game. And to me, that makes you harder to guard. Now, the only drawback so far from Scoot is his jump shot, I guess. His jump shot not very good. But as you know, in the NBA, you have the right coaching staff, the right development team, that jump shot will improve over the years. So I'm not worried about his jumper. It's more about just him coming in here to Charlotte, if that's the case, finding out how fits best with Lamelo Ball and kind of go from there.
Rod, I love it. I love where your head's at. I think Scoot's a great pick. Thank you for participating again in this year's mock draft. I appreciate you so very much.
You got it. Anytime.